If you have been thinking you are lazy because you can't stay consistent, I want you to pause because laziness is not the problem, overwhelm is. You can feel overwhelmed because you set up too many goals, you have too many ideas that you want to work on, you have constant guilt and you are feeling that guilt even when you're trying things, not just when you're not doing things or you're being completely unproductive. I say overwhelm is the problem because you need to first be clear about what laziness and overwhelm is. Laziness is unwillingness, which you are not, because you are trying to have new goals, you're trying to do things, but then you stop and you start over again, you create new goals and you create new ideas. You are wanting to do something for yourself. That is not unwillingness. That's why I say you're not lazy. You are overwhelmed because overwhelm is inability to do something in that moment. Not forever. You can create circumstances where your brain functions better if it is not overwhelmed and if it is not overloaded with new information and new ideas and new goals all the time. When you're overwhelmed, your brain literally shuts down. You have a decision fatigue, so that's why you cannot be productive. And when you're overloaded in your brain, everything feels urgent. Like you don't know which task needs to be more prioritized or which goal is more important to you. Everything that you've thought of feels urgent and important. It feels urgent, but also you get nothing done. That's what overwhelm does to your brain. I want to tell you that procrastination is not a character flaw. It is a stress response which can be controlled and which can be fixed. And that's why in this video, I want to talk about how productivity hacks that we've learned or the ways of productivity that we're taught is simply not working for us in a long term. And I want to talk about the tools that will actually help us be productive in a long run. I went through too many slumps, and now being my most productive self, I want to help other people to be their most productive selves too. In this video, I'm going to talk about how you're not actually lazy, but your brain is overwhelmed and how you can overcome that and how we can get rid of the wrong productivity ideas that we were taught. And I want you to help redefine productivity in a way that actually works for a long term. Hi, I'm Sud. Welcome back to my channel. In this channel, I talk about productivity. I do vlogs, show you guys my routine, and I want us to be the best version of ourselves in 2026, and this is what my channel is about at the moment, and I would love for you to join my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Let's dive into it right away. So coming back to why we think we're lazy and we're not overwhelmed is because laziness and overwhelm looks pretty similar. When your brain is overwhelmed, you avoid tasks, which looks like laziness. You scroll on your phone, which looks like lack of discipline, and you do not want to take actions to start new things, which looks like procrastination, right? So all of these things, they look like laziness, but it is due to overwhelm in your brain is why you're doing all of these things. But first, let's talk about why this is happening. Overwhelm comes from trying to make too many decisions all the time. You're trying to add new goals to yourself, whereas you haven't even met the goals that you've set up for before. It comes from the fear of getting things wrong. You don't start things because you feel like you should be perfect while starting things. But like I said in my previous video too, there is no perfect starting time. Perfect starting time is when you start. It's just right when you start. You have to overcome that fear of thinking there is a perfect time to start. Me personally, I used to think, because I used to watch a lot of productivity videos, I used to follow a lot of productivity gurus, and then they will always tell you to push yourself harder. They will always tell you to keep making new goals and keep your standards so high for yourself. You have to reach it, push harder and harder. And I believe a lot of people think this, and I feel like a lot of us have been given wrong idea of productivity, and all of these productivity hacks and tips can look logical, but it is not complete. And it looks logical because it works for a short time. Like you can keep pushing harder and harder, but when you have one day of failure, you're gonna feel like you can't turn back around. And then to compensate that one day of failure, you make more new goals, you make more systems, so you have to catch up on the day that you missed. You have one bad day and then you just cannot reach that goal. So this is why this kind of productivity hacks don't work. For example, if you have your phone literally crashing, it is lagging, what do? Do you upload new app? No, you close your phone or charge your phone, let it rest, and then you open it again. Same goes. Your brain is overloaded with new systems that you're making every day. Also, another reason why these kind of productivity hacks are more convincing is because it is rewarded socially more. If you see someone working all the time, people really go ahead and reward that so easily. Oh my God, you work so hard. This is so good. You're gonna succeed because you work 18 hours a day. Wow, you're gonna succeed. Like, I feel like socially that reward makes people feel like I'm doing the right thing. I'm putting in 12 hours of work, so I must succeed. But it doesn't work that way. Long term, you cannot work 12 hours a day. And another reason, it looks impressive. When we see a productive vlog, if there's so many things happening, we find it so impressive. Everyone wants to be on that vlogger's page because wow, look at her life. She's so productive. She's doing so much. So it looks very impressive online. And right now, everyone's online. So everyone is kind of rewarding that online too. I want you to know that pushing harder only works for a few days or a few weeks because it will only cause you more anxiety. It will cause more decision fatigue because our human body reacts to all of these rapid new systems that we are creating with protection. It will even cause you procrastination because your body is trying to protect you from overworking. Does that make sense? I feel like you can see that when you try to get yourselves to overwork. Like, let's say if you have 10 hours of workload today, you are more likely to avoid that goal. Whereas if you have work block for 2 hours, because your brain is trying to avoid that, it's protecting you by avoiding it. A very common thing when you have long working hours, you're more tend to go on your phone, you're more tend to avoid the work by doing something else. You're zoning out and you're not completely focused on the task. Whereas if you create 2 hours of work block at a time, you're more tend to focus on it. All this is to say that productivity is not about doing more, but it is about doing what matters more, what is more important, and doing that without overwhelming your nervous system. So when approaching the productive life, you want to be productive, then I want you to think what is creating the overload in your nervous system, what is creating too much chaos, too much mental noise. So I want you to first analyze that. I want you to shift your thinking from how do I stay disciplined to how do I make my life lighter, because consistency comes from simplicity. If your life has simple routine, you are more prone to stay consistent, and discipline grows when your mental load decreases. You are not going to be disciplined if you have thousands of things in your brain. Now that we are clear about what laziness is and what overwhelm is and what overwhelm can cause and have been causing and have been a problem in your life, we have now come to the conclusion that it is actually overwhelm that is the problem and not laziness, and how you can shift your thinking of what productivity is. Let's talk about what are the tools that can help you be productive. This has got nothing to do with you need to push yourself harder and harder. Those are not the tips. So for a moment, I want you to forget about all of the productivity tips that you've gotten. You're probably watching this video because you are thinking you are lazy, that you haven't done things a lot and you want to do a lot. You have that willingness. So I want you to listen to this with an open mind so you can actually start working on the goals that you have. I have written down 3 tools, but very important tools that will get you to start. And these are going to be tools that are going to be your step number 1 to become your best version this year. Guys, I have literally written down for you guys. It's not just me coming here and saying anything. I've actually taken time to think about this and written down all of the stuff that I want to say, especially about the tools. So I'm going to tell you one by one all the tools that will help you. Tool number 1, reduce the goals. I know it sounds counterintuitive. You're trying to be productive, but I'm telling you to reduce your goals. But trust me, this is how you start. And when I say reduce your goals, what I mean by that is start by the smallest version of a task. Let's say you need to write a whole project. What you're gonna do today is write 1 page. Create a goal that is easily achievable so you can start and you don't procrastinate. Because if you're thinking that you're gonna do a whole project today, you're gonna procrastinate, you're gonna scroll on your phone, you're gonna try to avoid it as much as you can, sometimes unintentionally. But if you think that, oh, I just need to do one page, you're gonna sit down and do that one page. So usually what I do is my work block. I never create a 4-hour work block or 5-hour work block. Never. Because my brain is gonna 100% procrastinate. I know my brain too well. So what I do instead, 1 hour to block, 2-hour maximum. When I create 1 hour block and I sit down, I'm more likely to actually work for 3 hours even, because I'm already sat down and I've already started and I'm like in the flow and I'm like, I've already started and I've got to this point, so I want to finish this. Sometimes motivation even comes from starting, but when you don't start at all, what's gonna happen with your goal? Tool number 2, decide once, not repeatedly. What I mean by this is a lot of your overwhelm comes from making decisions, not actually making efforts. All the time in your brain, you're fighting. When do I work out? When do I do my projects? When do I do my assignments? You're trying to make decisions in your head and you're already creating that mental noise, which is making you feel like you've done so much work and you haven't even put the efforts yet. And by the time that you need to start the work, your energy is gone because you put so much mental energy into making decisions than actually doing the work. They are very small decisions, right? When do I wake up? What time do I work out? What time do I start my work? All of these things are very small decisions, but small decisions add up to quietly exhaust you in a long run, because decisions add up very quickly. This usually happens to people who run on motivation, so their day depends on how good you started the day. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you do not have that motivation, you're gonna be thinking, oh, today is not that good of a day, so I'm gonna work out maybe at 12. Tomorrow comes and then you're thinking, oh, today is really a bad day, I don't want to work out. This is very motivation-based productivity, which is gonna make you inconsistent. You need to have structure-based productivity. You need to make decisions on what days of what time you need to work. What are your work time? What are your workout time? What are your evening shutdown time? All of these needs to be scheduling for every day if it is going to be different, and you need to have that written on paper, on your phone. That's gonna take that mental load off of your brain, where you need to think every day what you're doing when. And when the decisions are already made prior, you're gonna negotiate less because you already know what you're doing. You're not gonna wake up and think, because I'm not feeling too good, I'm going to work out at 1 p.m. and then again, like, it's 12 p.m, close to 1 p.m, you're like, I'm not feeling too good, maybe I'm not gonna work out at all. It gives that room for negotiation. You're providing that room for negotiation, which is making you stuck. If you make the decisions, you already know on Tuesday, 9 a.m, you have gym. You have to go. You have already made that decision prior. Now you just act on it. When you have to make few decisions, it's gonna have few mental noise. So you have more time to actually do the work than to make decisions. Now coming to tool number 3, that is only one priority per day. When I say one priority per day, that doesn't mean that you're not going to do any other tasks. So you're just going to do one task a day. No, I'm not saying that. You are going to do your daily activities like normal. You are going to respond to normal life. But one task has the most importance to you emotionally. You put your best energy onto that task. Now, why this work is when you have multiple priorities and you juggle from one task to another, what happens is that, I read this, by the way, I want to give credit to the 3-question journal book that I have. I read it there, where it said that when you do multiple things at a time, your brain doesn't know which task is the most important. It doesn't know which one is the priority. So you are giving equal mental energy to all of it, but not all of the tasks are as equally important. Obviously, some tasks are more important on that day than the others, right? But your brain cannot differentiate between that. When you have multiple priorities, you have mental chaos going on. Whereas if you focus on one task being the main priority, what happens is that you're gonna feel the progress. You're gonna give your best energy to that task. And I always recommend doing this task first thing in the morning or very early on the day, because what it does is that it's gonna make you feel that relief that you've already done this most important task, and it also is going to motivate you naturally because you've already completed something, and completion naturally makes us motivated, right? If you look at it psychologically, actually why this works is because you already know what you are going to focus on, and your anxiety drops because your goal is already clear to you. And one thing that I want to tell you guys is, if you have one task as the most important goal, you have to have a boundary and you have to take time for it. Probably have boundaries like you shouldn't be using your phone, you should put it on silent, or you should put it on another room so you don't check your phone. During that time, you're completely focused on one thing, you're not multitasking, nothing else is being done at this time. There is no distraction that should happen while doing your most important task of the day. A lot of people worry that focusing on one thing makes you behind, but that is simply not true. When you have completed something, that feeling of completion makes you motivated and makes you want to do more things. And when you start putting undivided focus onto things, when you start creating habits like this, you are more inclined to add up more goals later. So this is a very good starting strategy. So what I want you to do tomorrow is create one most important goal for you to do early on the day, so your day is going to feel lighter to you. You've already completed your most important task. You can just relax, you can focus on other less important tasks. That is gonna give you that relief of completion, which is gonna make you feel like you can rely on yourself, you can trust yourself because you did what you said you were gonna do. Adapt these 3 tools that I've given to you. I'm sure of it that it will help you make your life more simpler, and you will feel like you want to be more productive. And you can always keep adding on, but this is just to start, okay? The reason I make this video is because I've been in this place, and I really do not want you to feel that you're lazy or you're broken or this can't be fixed and you're always starting and then you're stopping. If you're starting and stopping, then I know that you're willing to do. So you're not lazy. You just have to fight through the idea of productivity that you were taught. And you've been trying, but your brain is overloaded. And we're humans. Our brain is obviously gonna crash and shut down. That's just biology. I do not want you to think that it is just your struggle. A lot of people go through this. I have been through this, and I have been in slump for days and weeks where I felt like I'm so lazy. You have to really get rid of all or nothing kind of mindset, because when you are overly motivated in one day and you create 16 different goals and then you're trying to work on all of it together, you are going to burn out, and one day you're just not going to do nothing, and on next day you're going to try to catch up for the things that you haven't done on that day. And then obviously it's going to be more difficult because you're trying to do things for 2 days in one day, right? And that one day was already harder because you set up 16 goals, which is unrealistic. So what I want you to do is recognize your limit. That is not a shameful thing to do. You do not need to push yourself harder and harder. I want you to accept your limit, and I want you to work with it, then against it. This person did it. The person who told me on internet told me that they did it. They probably did it too, but that might have come through 2-3 years of discipline. But you're starting just now. You can't start and compete with people or compare yourself with people who have started 3 years ago. That is just unrealistic, and that is going to set you up for failure. You shouldn't be comparing yourself with people who have started way earlier, or even with people who have started with you who might have more mental energy or physical energy with anything. You are not in competition with anyone. Do not try to create false competition in your head. That is just going to create you anxiety. That is going to cause you burnout because you're gonna try to match someone else's level of work. No, you are allowed to start small. I actually encourage you to start small. You are allowed to move slowly, but you have to keep moving. You are in your own journey, and you have recognized that you have been behind on things. You are willing, you're trying to make yourself more productive, you're trying to do more things. That in itself, being aware of that in itself is a win. A lot of people do not even realize that. But what I want you to do is I want you to have an honest conversation of what are the things that are creating this overload, and how do I get rid of them, and what are the priority in my life at this point of life. 5 years later, something else could be a priority. 5 years before, something else maybe was a priority, but right now, what is your main focus? What is your main priority? I want you to have honest conversation about all of these things, and you do not have to do all of it right now. Consistency grows from having honest conversation with yourself, being kind to yourself, and actually working with yourself. That is not just about working with the best qualities that you have. It is also working with the limits that you have, your bad qualities. What are the things that are blocking your way to your goals? I want you to have honest conversation about these things so you can actually work on them. And after being honest with yourself about all of these things and using those 3 tools that I've told you about before, try to create a structure in your life. Consistency flows when you have structure, not when you are completely chaotic in your head. Then you are overloaded, and that's what we talked about in this whole video. You do not want to overload your system, your nervous system. You want to put your nervous system at ease so you can actually do the work, not just think about them. Please be kind to yourself and please be easy on yourself. I am sure that you're capable of building consistency. You do not need to achieve everything at once. Please let go of that mentality. Please let go of the perfectionist mindset. You do not need to start big. Let's say if you're content creating, your first video doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be out. Your practice will make it perfect, but you gotta start. I really want you to start small and slowly and build up that consistency. I believe in you. I hope these tips really help you, and I want you to be the best version of yourself this year. And if you want to do that, don't forget to subscribe, because I want to come up with vlogs or talking videos where I can give you guys tips or show you how I'm practicing productivity so you get inspired too, and we can both inspire each other. You can definitely let me know what are the productivity hacks that have actually worked for you and what haven't. Thank you so much for watching my video, guys. See you on next one.